this is a story that really moved my heart. His name is Roberto Espinoza, and he's out of San Antonio, Texas. Now, he's a Mexican immigrant, and his parents had owned some furniture stores in Mexico. Then they moved to San Antonio and started a furniture company there. So he kind of had the entrepreneurial blood in his system, and he decided he wanted to be a restaurant owner. And he started a restaurant on the Riverwalk area of San Antonio, the tourist district of San Antonio, really quite lovely down there. And then came 9/11, and that wiped out the tourist industry, number one. And then number two, his service elevator at his restaurant collapsed while he was on it. He went from the second story to the basement. Lucky it wasn't any bigger than that, but it was enough that it caused him to be in the hospital for weeks. So his business is shot at this point. Well, he has disability insurance that he bought from Northwestern Mutual, and so that kept the wolf from the door. And then he had, the guy that's selling the disability insurance said, you know, you need a job. Do you want to try selling life insurance for us? Roberto said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. And the first 3 years, it didn't go well. I mean, he was one of those 85% that couldn't get onboarded, because it's very difficult. I don't have to tell you how hard it is to onboard new agents. You know, you make it past breakwater, and it's a pretty lucrative career. Getting to breakwater, because I think the fear of making calls more than anything else, you know, and the consistency. Well, anyway, he cleaned out his desk 3 times in 3 years. He was so discouraged. He was one of the 85%, not the 15%. But he does have a handful of clients, and one of them holds a life policy, and guy's killed in a car accident. Roberto goes to the funeral. And at the funeral, the 8-year-old daughter of the deceased man gets up, and Roberto's in the audience. And she gets up and she says, number one, I miss my dad. And number two, I know we'll be okay. I know we'll be okay. It's like Rich DeVita's dad dying at age 39, but they were okay in that sense, the tragedy aside, because your dad had provided for you, and so had the client. And all of a sudden, Roberto goes from a guy who sees himself as being a pest, you know, interrupting people at dinner and being told so, you know, by people who are angry to get a cold call, to being the savior of an 8-year-old girl and a family. It just completely changed the way he looked. He began to trust the higher purpose and nobility of his career. Well, he told me he became 5 times more productive in 5 seconds. And the 5 seconds is it was a mental shift.